It is 2018. A rather dodgy businessman has an idea. He goes by the name AFU. AFU is an expert when it comes to encrypted phones, selling phantom secure devices to criminals. He's a bit of a geek though. Not much of a coder. Previously AFU worked alongside one of Australia's most notorious drug traffickers, Hakan AEK, known as the Facebook Gangster, for publicly documenting his criminal lifestyle online. AEK is deeply connected in the underworld, observing the gap left by all those encrypted phone companies going down. AFU hatches a plan. He wants to launch the next big encrypted phone. ANØM. ANØM devices are essentially off-the-shelf Google Pixel phones, modified to run a custom operating system called Arcane OS. This is where it gets interesting. At first glance it looks like any other phone. It has apps like Tinder, Netflix and Spotify, but when you tap them nothing happens. They're just dummies. ANØM phones come with several special features. One of them is pin scrambling. It randomly shuffles the numbers on the keypad, making it difficult for anyone nearby to figure out your passcode. The real magic is unlocked when you enter a different pin. When you unlock the phone this way, you only see these three app settings: the clock and a calculator. The calculator works just like a normal one, but if you enter a special code, the heart of the device reveals itself, the ANØM messenger. It allows you to chat with an ANØM user anonymously in case things go south. The phone also has a kill switch. ANØM will soon become a thriving tech startup for organized crime, and AFU will become its CEO. But his true plan goes far beyond that. This story is about a brilliant sting operation, but it's also about privacy. How many input fields have you filled in your life? Remember the account from that sketchy online store you ordered from a decade ago, or that weird form about that thing you once cared about. Data brokers are companies that collect your private information from the farthest corners of the internet and sell it, often to the highest bidder. That way your data can easily end up in the hands of cyber criminals. Think identity theft, fraudulent loans, and even maxed out credit cards. Incognito forces data brokers to delete your sensitive information. All you need to do is sign up and let Incognito do the work. Their dashboard keeps you updated on which companies have removed your data. Keeping your subscription means that Incognito also makes sure that data brokers don't add your data back to their roster later. Scan this QR code or head to Incognito mode. Fern TV. I get this call from this lawyer I've never heard of, and who basically said, I want to meet you tomorrow. This is Andrew Young. He works for the Department of Justice in San Diego, California. Young and his team are meeting the mysterious attorney, his client none other than AFU. Turns out the lawyer reached out to broker a deal. AFU is offering his product ANØM to the FBI. The offer: AFU will build the next generation of privacy phones, and law enforcement will have total access. A hidden backdoor, the ultimate got out of jail free card for AFU in case you ever needed one. His personal intentions for that are not clear. Presumably there's already a lot of dirt on the Maku's attorney pitches the phone to the authorities like a Silicon Valley tech demo. Andrew Young and his team quickly realize this could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What could be more valuable than having control over thousands of devices designed for criminals? Young and the FBI agreed to Work with AFU, but many questions remain unanswered. How should the back door be implemented in ANØM, and how do you get criminals to start using the phones? And there is of course another major problem. Without evidence of a crime spying on phones inside the US is illegal, young as concerning the operation might not get approved by the Department of Justice, so the FBI reaches out to Australian law enforcement instead, and they seem to be stoked by the idea with the help from the Australian Federal Police AFP. The first ANØM phones can hit the black market in Australia. The trap is the startup music. Set months go by as AFU builds his company. The FBI remains hidden in the shadows. He hires coders from around the globe. They all work from home completely unaware of the real employer, as CEO AFU collaborates closely with law enforcement. They soon managed to implement a back door that allows the Australian police to gather intelligence from ANØM phones. The FBI is still left out. The mechanism is straightforward. When a user sends a message to another user, that message is silently copied and redirected to a third location controlled by the authorities. The users will not notice a thing. Now ANØM just needs users. The strategy is to rely on word of mouth. Just like any other product in the criminal underworld, AFU starts handing out ANØM phones to Australian criminals for free. They in turn tell others of the device, and so on and so forth. After a series of tests, the moment of truth arrives. An Australian AFP officer stares at his screen in anticipation. He can hardly believe his eyes when the first intercepted message appears. All the hard work has finally paid off. It's 2019. ANØM has several hundred users. Demand is skyrocketing and deliveries are spreading all over the country. Drug traffickers, Italian mobsters and big gangs, all of them are using ANØM to discuss business. Meanwhile, the AFP is meticulously monitoring every message, getting invaluable insights into criminal operations, but the FBI is still not allowed to read the messages. Young needs approval from higher ranks. After a lot of meetings and persuasion, he finally gets what he wants. His approach is somewhat dubious, though running servers with intercepted messages on us soil is prohibited, and Australia is legally not allowed to share their intelligence. The FBI needs another country to host the operation and pass on the information to them. Young reaches out to members of the EU searching for a willing partner to help. Finally, Lithuania volunteers to host the FBI servers. Let's put a pin into these legal shenanigans for a moment, though. For now, Operation Trojan Shield can finally kick into high Operation Trojan Shield gear. This is Swedish drug trafficker Maximilian Rivkin. His nickname is Microsoft. He has scars on his knees and fingers. His right arm shows a tattoo with 3 monkeys. Don't see, don't speak, don't listen. Microsoft runs a meth lab in Sweden and is well connected in the country's underbelly. He uses chat to communicate with his accomplice. In the summer of 2020, Microsoft receives a weird message. In fact, every chat user receives this message at that very moment. Law enforcement in Europe is cracking down on the encrypted phone company. Microsoft is screwed and urgently needs a new, safer way to conduct his business, so he travels to Istanbul. Here he meets Hakan Aek, the infamous Facebook gangster. Aek is working on expanding ANØM's reach and sees enormous Potential in the company. The meeting leads to a new business partnership. Both men are convinced that ANØM is the future of encrypted communication for criminals. Together they set a goal: push ANØM globally and become a biggest resellers. Back in Sweden, Microsoft wasted no time. He begins recruiting a network of people to help distribute ANØM phones across the country. With the downfall of chat, ANØM grows at insane speeds, but users are skeptical. After the recent crackdown, everyone is extremely cautious, trusting this new phone company is a huge risk to build credibility. Microsoft tells others that ANØM's founder is on the run from the FBI. If even the FBI can't crack the platform, they all should be safe. In a fairly foolish display of trust, he even sends photos of his own Swedish ID card over ANØM to reassure his contacts. Meanwhile, law enforcement is watching the whole drama from a distance. FBI agents are analyzing all the messages, including those from Microsoft. Everything is unfolding just as planned. ANØM spreads autonomously and self-propelled within the criminal underworld, but one day an officer reads a series of very concerning messages. Apparently Microsoft is planning to murder a former cafe owner in Stockholm. Convinced that the man owes him $800,000, Microsoft hires a hitman. In a group chat, the hitman suggests to disguise himself as a delivery driver, approach the target's door and take him out on the spot. Microsoft loves this. At this point, the Swedish police realized the threat is about to become real. The police has no choice but to warn the target. The assassination fails. ANØM is never mentioned as a source. It's 2021. ANØM has spread at a phenomenal rate, with around 12,000 users and millions of messages sent in 45 different languages. The sheer volume of data has become overwhelming. FBI agents are sifting through countless messages from all over the world, ranging from drug deals and murder for hire schemes to money laundering operations, and even the occasional honest pic when lives are at risk. The police are forced to intervene. ANØM, however, can never be named as a source during fieldwork, or the entire operation would be exposed. The secrecy of the operation is paramount with every new user. This problem multiplies. Eventually, the flood of intelligence becomes too much to process. At the same time, Lithuania's court order is coming to an end. Without Lithuania, where the ANØM servers are running, the FBI cannot spy on people anymore. After 4 years, Operation Trojan Shield needs to end, but when it do, it sends shock waves through global organized crime, OPO investigation, and Operation Criminal Sting. Ever ANØM users all around the world are waking up to a nightmare. Heavily armed law enforcement enters their home, somehow fully and thoroughly aware of all their illegal dealings. Later that day, the FBI comes out publicly and reveals the secret behind ANØM. For the first time, the FBI developed and operated its own hardened encrypted device company called ANØM. Law enforcement agencies across the globe celebrate their unprecedented victory. This investigation, called Operation Trojan Shield, shined a light into the shadowy industry of hardened encrypted devices. This is a watershed moment in Australian law enforcement history. Operation Trojan Shield results in hundreds of arrests, the dismantling of major criminal networks, and the seizure of enormous quantities of drugs, weapons, and illicit funds. The evidence seized by The police is staggering, it feels like. The ultimate triumph against organized crime. It certainly is the biggest sting. Operation FBI history, probably in all of history, but as the dust settles, a harsh reality begins to emerge. This mission, hailed as a success, could potentially turn into a massive music limbo. Failure. To this day, over 27 million ANØM messages have been collected based on this intelligence. Over 800 arrests have been made, but experts are growing increasingly skeptical about whether ANØM's chats will be admissible in court. That's because the evidence may have been obtained through potentially illegal means. A German court has already set a precedent, ruling that ANØM chats cannot be used as evidence in trials because they could not be physically linked to the suspects. In the case of 3 drug traffickers arrested in Germany, the court only approved physical evidence for trial, dismissing the encrypted messages gathered from ANØM in Australia. Legal uncertainty has already delayed a major trial, with the court grappling over whether the data collected through ANØM's back door can be used to convict suspects if courts worldwide continue to reject the ANØM chat evidence. Hundreds of cases could be thrown into jeopardy. Criminals who are caught red-handed through these communications could potentially walk free despite their obvious involvement in serious crimes. Other courts declared ANØM's messages as lawfully obtained. Trials will likely go through higher instances, in many cases dragging on for years. It's unclear how many ANØM users will ultimately be convicted, while official press releases praise the number of murders supposedly prevented. There's a troubling silence regarding those that were not. According to Joseph Cox, at least one assassination of a Swedish man was meticulously planned in ANØM chats and executed while authorities observed in real time. As these cases become mired in legal limbo, an uncomfortable question arises: was Operation Trojan Shield actually worth it if key evidence is dismissed and trials are delayed or overturned?